Welcome to this foundational core strength routine. This is going to take around 7 or 8 minutes and we're going to be going through some basic core strength drills. You won't need anything, just a mat will make this a little bit more comfortable, and you can follow along to my cues and the timer in the bottom corner. We're going to be working for 1 minute on with 20-second rest breaks in between. Let's get into it. Our first move is the upper dead bug. This is designed to build thoracic core integrity. What we mean by that is being able to maintain core engagement and keep your lower back firmly pressed into the floor whilst moving your upper body. So the aim of this movement is to keep that core control. We don't want any space underneath your lower back. So really firm your lower back into the ground and breathe out as you compress. The second aim of this movement is to get your arms to the floor without losing that thoracic integrity. So it's really important that we tuck our ribs and keep our core locked on throughout this movement. Okay, we'll take a quick 20-second rest and then we'll get into our next move, which is the side plank. So here I'm performing a really basic beginner version of the side plank, and I've got my knees stacked, my hips stacked, and my knees bent. I want you to press the shoulder blade away from your body and into the floor. That's going to firm up the upper back. And you also want to lift your hips and squeeze your glutes throughout this movement. If you're comfortable with this already, then you can come into the second progression, which is the supported side plank, where I'm just using my top leg to support. The other option, and the hardest version, is to come into the regular side plank. But I want to make sure that you can maintain your thoracic integrity and keep your glutes engaged and hold a really nice solid side plank first. So I recommend you just start off with this basic version on your knees. Once you can hold that for a minute, then you can move on to the harder progressions. So much of core strength is about breathing and maintaining control over your midsection whilst you're moving. So I really encourage you to focus on breathing deeply throughout this routine and keeping your ribs tucked for just about every move in this core routine. You'll notice there's a lot of similar cues that I keep repeating throughout this drill, and that's because foundational core strength is often about being able to keep your ribs tucked, your glutes squeezed, and your pelvis rolled down underneath, and that posterior pelvic tilt position. So we'll switch over to the other side, the right hand side of our plank now, remembering to push the shoulder blade away and into the ground, and only develop into these harder progressions once you're really comfortable holding the basic ones for a minute. Throughout this movement, I want you to just glance down at your hips and make sure that they're directly stacked on top of one another. You don't want to open up out to the side. So remember to squeeze the glutes and just roll the hips slightly towards the front to maintain that nice straight body line. Really reach that top hand nice and high away from the body to open up your chest and upper back. Okay, for our next move, we're going to take a position on our hands and knees and maintaining a straight body line between our knees, hips, and shoulders. It's really important here as you're lifting the hands to keep the ribs tucked, so we don't want to arch in the lower back. Really keep flexing your core, engaging your abs, squeezing your glutes, and maintaining a nice, strong, stable body position as we move the upper limbs. This is a regression of the shoulder taps exercise, so if you're finding that you're not quite strong in that position or you're having trouble with leaning on your wrists, then this is a great way to build up to that movement. And if you are having pain in your wrists and core exercises and that's stopping you from doing these things, check out my wrist preparation routine. Our next move you should be familiar with. This is the bird dog. Again, we're taking a position on our hands and knees, and then we're extending the opposite limbs out and away. Again, here it's important to keep the ribs tucked so we're maintaining that thoracic integrity, and I encourage you to squeeze the glute of the leg that you're raising as you push the leg and the arm away. Breathe in on the way up and out on the way down. Really try and lengthen through the top of your head in this position, trying to make your torso as long and as strong as possible. It's important to not rush this movement. Take a brief pause at the top, slowly lower back down and start your next rep. For our next move, we're going to be in this lounge chair position. So we're in slightly extended with our shoulders, and then we just gently lift our hips up off the ground. Now this is a small but important move. We're training the hip flexors. So what you want to do is lift one knee off the ground and simultaneously press actively through into the ground through your hands and the opposite foot. Whilst you're in this position, keep your chest out and your shoulders back, and breathe out as you compress your knee into your chest. For a harder variation of this movement, you could lift the hips all the way up until they're in line with the knees and the shoulders. But again, this is a beginner routine, so I encourage you to stick with this basic variation. Really get comfortable with this variation before you move on to something harder. Our next move is a more typical core strength drill, and it's the reverse crunch. So we're going to fold our knees up into your chest, lifting your hips up off the ground and compressing your abdomen, and really try and squeeze the knees into the chest at the top of the movement. Try and breathe out as you compress the knees into the chest and really firm the upper body down into the floor by pressing your forearms and hands into the ground as you lift your knees to your chest and the hips up off the ground. Try and slow down the lowering part of the movement so we're under control rather than just flopping on the floor. We want to maintain some control through this movement. Now, if at any time you can't reach 1 minute in these exercises, that's totally fine. Just do as much as you can. Feel free to take a quick rest and come back in when you're ready. The aim over time is that you become really comfortable doing an entire minute of each move without a rest, but that's only going to come with time and repeating this workout 2 to 3, maybe 4 times a week over the course of your training. And just keep in mind, you can never do too much core strength. Our final move for this foundational drill is the prone cross extension. So we're going to lay face down on the ground and we're going to lift the opposite legs. And as you do that, press the opposite limbs into the floor. So you really want to press that foot and the non-working hand into the floor. Squeeze your glutes as you arch up and breathe out as you come up into that extended position. Hold that top position for a second or two, slowly lower back down under control. And one more tip for this move, you'll notice that I'm reaching with my thumbs up. That helps the shoulders come into external rotation, which the shoulders love. So lead with that thumb, raise your arm as high as you can comfortably, as long as you're not experiencing pain in the lower back. Might be a little bit uncomfortable, but you should never train through a range of motion that gives you pain. So that's it. You should feel super proud of getting the core strength done for the day and ticking that off. So ease into it, do a little bit more every week, and you'll definitely get stronger over time. I hope you enjoyed this drill. Come back and do it as often as you like. I would recommend 2, 3, maybe 4 times a week. When you can do a minute of all these exercises unbroken, you're ready to move on to something a little bit harder. And I think the next best routine following on from this one is my free core routine on YouTube, as well as the core routine that's in Hike Strong. Hit me up in the comments section for troubleshooting and any questions you have. Do yourself a favor, come back again. I'll see you next time.